Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Okay, so today we're going to be making this really pretty cocoa melon cake because I really enjoyed making it and my customer really loved it. It was for a 4-year-old child and he really loved it. Okay, so today we're going to be using red velvet cake, yes. And then if you want this recipe, I'm going to put the link right up here. If you don't see the link right there, it means I haven't posted it, and it's going to be in the description box when I have done that. Okay, for this cake, what you're going to need is 2 sizes. So I baked in 2 different pans, but 2 different sizes. Do you get? Normally, if you bake like a cake this size, you bake maybe 2 8 inches pan or 2 6 inches pan kind of. But in this cake, I baked a 1 6-inch pan and a 1 8-inch pan. That way, like the 6-inch can be on top and the bottom, and the 8-inch can be in the middle. That way, you won't waste as much cake when you are carving out your round shape, if that makes sense. Okay, so I'm filling my cakes with my perfect buttercream. This buttercream is awesome. It is silky and not extremely sweet, and it is delicious and easy to make. It is my perfect Swiss marine buttercream, and I've had so many reviews about the buttercream, and a lot of people love it. So if you have a problem with making Swiss marine buttercream, click on the link right up here. It says click on me. Yeah, click on that. Okay, so guys, the next thing we're going to be doing is doweling our cakes. And for cakes this size, I like to dowel with straws, and I like to use 5 straws. Yeah, so I'm going to put one in the middle, 2 at either sides of the one in the middle, and another 2 at either sides, like opposite sides, like basically of the one in the middle again. So that way it keeps your cake upright, and it doesn't give it a lot of structure, but it gives it some semblance of structure, and makes it really stable. Okay, so in this case, the next thing you want to do is to like carve out the shape of a watermelon. You just want to make it as round as possible. So that's what we're going to do. So if you don't know how to carve cakes, I have a video on how to carve cakes on this channel, and it is especially made for beginners. So don't be afraid. If you're a beginner, you've never carved a cake before, click on the link right up here, right above. It says click on me. Yeah, click on that. In that video, I made it specifically for you to learn how to carve cakes. The things you need to do first of all, before even putting a knife on your cake, the things you need to do while carving, and the things you need to do after carving to get the perfect carve and not over carve or under carve. So if you want to see that, click on the link right above there and watch how to carve cakes, especially for beginners. And if you're not a beginner, you're just not very conversant with cake carving, and you'd like to do more of that, yeah, you can watch that video as well. It is important because if you watch that video, it creates a basis for you to carve any shape of cake. Basically, like the things you need to do first of all when you're carving a cake, regardless of what shape. Yeah, that's what that video is for. So if you notice in this video, I've carved the top as rounded as possible as I can get it, and the bottom as well. That's what I'm trying to do right now. You want it to be really rounded and really smooth and really nice as much as you can. Okay guys, so the next thing you want to do once you're done carving and you're sure you have the shape that you're going for is to cover in ganache. So I'm going to be covering this cake in white chocolate ganache, and if you want my white chocolate ganache recipe, I'm going to put a link right up here. In that video, I showed you guys how I make my white chocolate ganache recipe. The recipe for white chocolate ganache and dark chocolate ganache are pretty different because they have very different like constituents in the composition and stuff. So the ingredient is very different. So you should watch that to know how to make this perfect white chocolate ganache that gives you this really firm base for your cakes. Yes, you can also use it on regular cakes to get sharp edges, and it firms up really fast and very easy to work with. So it's really awesome, guys. So if you want to see how that is done, check out the link I talked about previously. Okay, so moving forward, yes, once you have covered your cake, the next thing we want to think about is covering it in fondant. Yeah, and then make sure like when you cover your cake the first time, you cover it also the second time with ganache, because the first time kind of locks in the crumbs, and the second time gives you like a more silky smooth finish. And you want that because watermelon is smooth and really, and a Cocomelon cake is like, it has the base of a watermelon, so you want it to be really smooth and pretty. Okay, so once we have done that, we are going to roll out our fondant and then cover our cake. Okay, so when you are doing that, a mistake I made while doing this cake, which I wouldn't want you to make if you're trying to make this cake, is to first of all color this fondant in green. Don't leave it in white. The reason is because your cake would have more depth to it and you wouldn't even need to airbrush it. Don't leave it in white. But my intention in this case was to maybe make a white covering and then paint it with my paintbrush, like paint it green, so that way I can get those stripes of watermelon by using edible green paint. But then I made a mistake when I was doing that, and I'm going to explain that to you guys. So make sure you spread out your fondant not too thin, because so that like when you're trying to cover your cake, it won't stretch out and then like just give your cake a really weird this thing. The thicker your fondant is, the better chances you have of like covering it at a go without having patches and everything. So if you notice that you can see the top of you can see the straws I used to stabilize my cake and on top of my fondant. I wasn't supposed to do that. So like if you're going to do that, make sure like you dip your straws deep inside and you can't see it on top of your cake. But don't worry, for this cake it doesn't really make a difference, because you won't be able to see by the time we put that thing, that's at the antenna thing on top of, like that antenna thing on the Cocomelon. By the time we put it on top, it's gonna kind of hide it, so don't worry about that. So just make sure when you're doing this, make sure to cover to color your fondant green, because it gives you a really nice base and helps you get to your finished product a lot faster. Okay, so once you are done this, I'm going to show you how to smoothen on an irregular shape like this. Normally you would use a smoothener, yeah, but in this case you're going to be smoothing with fondant. So if you have a cake that is kind of shaped irregularly, all you have to do is take some fondant, rub some cornstarch on it, and then just rub it on your cake to smoothen it as much as possible. Look at what I'm doing. The warmer the fondant, the better. So what I like to do is to take the piece of fondant, and maybe stick it in the microwave for a few minutes. It warms it up a little, so that when you put it on top of your cake, of course you're going to put some cornstarch on it so it doesn't stick. The warmth and at the same time the pressure from your hands kind of makes your cake a lot smoother than if you smoothen it with your hands or if you smoothen it with the regular cake smoothener. But that can really be useful to you in this case, because you don't really have edges to smoothen out. You just have like really rounded, sides, like the curves and everything. So okay, so you want to do that for as long as it takes to get the watermelon, basically to be as smooth as possible. Okay guys, so the next thing we want to do is to color it green. So I took some food brush and some edible paint and tried to color it green. But the mistake I made was I thought it was green, but it was actually black. So the black looked green before you put it on the fondant. I don't know what miracle that was, but like some black colors have like a green base. I don't know if that makes sense. So when you look at it, it looks like green, but when you apply it, it's actually black. So that was what happened. And I was thinking, oh God, what can I do? How can I fix this? So I thought, okay, let me just leave it. Yeah. So what I did next was to like create stripes of green fondant. So I colored some fondant green and then like created stripes of like equal sizes with them. So we're going to apply those stripes on top of our cake. Okay, so but in the meantime, you're going to notice that if you look at this cake, you're going to notice that like now the black is kind of all over. And what I thought of doing was to just put the black all over so it can look like it was intentional and look like uniform, so it won't be just in one spot, because of course I can't just peel off my fondant, like that's like too much work. So what I did was try to make the black look like it was intentional. So I added a little bit more of that all around the cake and then airbrushed it. And this airbrush kind of brought it alive and made it look like more like a watermelon. So if you're doing this and you don't have an airbrush, please use good green paint. Be sure it is green paint and not black, and then make sure you color your fondant to green from the base and don't make it white, because that makes your work a lot easier. And if you want to use an airbrush, if you like this technique I did, what I did was, if you want to see that, click on the link right above here. That's how to use an airbrush for beginners. If you want to spray on it, airbrushes actually make your work look a little bit more realistic and give it a little bit more depth. So The next thing we're going to do is to apply the pink face of the Cocomelon, which is basically just a square, like a rectangle with rounded edges. Yeah, and then we're going to apply kind of like the cap. I don't know what that thing is called, like an antenna on top of it, and it is deep pink. So make sure you try to get the colors as best as you can. The face of the Cocomelon, which is the pink, has like a white outline around it if you look at like an actual Cocomelon picture. So I kind of rolled out some fondant and then I'm applying it around the face of the Cocomelon. Okay, so once we have done that, you want to make sure you go around and you want to make it as neat as possible, because if you airbrush your cake, the color kind of transfers if it is not dry yet. So if you are airbrushing and you're not just like, you're not coloring your fondant from scratch, make sure when you're doing this, like you are careful so that like the color doesn't transfer to the white you're creating around the face of your Cocomelon. Okay, so once you have done that and it is neat enough, the next thing you want to do is to form the eyes, and then the shiny white part of the eye, and then form the it has this white thing by the side. I don't know though, I don't know how some of the footage of this video got missing, but like when I was editing this video, I kind of realized that the parts where I added the eyes and the mouth and the nose was missing. But so I'm going to explain it to you guys. It was a very simple like technique. All I did was to like take a piece of black fondant and then did like a button and smashed it in my hand to like form the shape of the eyes, and then I put like tiny whites in the middle, like to the sides of the eyes, so you can look like looking to the side. And then I did the mouth. I just rolled a piece of black fondant in my hand again and like did the mouth, and rolled a piece of white fondant to do that thing that's like sweat on the top. I don't know if I'm making sense to you guys. I don't know how the footage got missing, but I just told myself like this cake is too pretty for me not to actually post it, because a little part of the process kind of got missing. So if you notice right now, I'm trying to form a ladybug. And what you need for a ladybug is some red fondant, some black fondant, and maybe a little bit of white fondant. So you bake a big part of the red fondant and form like the body, and then some black fondant to form the head, and then some black and white fondant to form the eyes, and then black to form the, you know, the limbs and everything. It's pretty easy. And if you want a video on how I make, I have a video on this channel on how I make like a beetle. Yes, I made a beetle for a Halloween cake some time ago, some insects actually. So I'm going to put the link right up here. Just click on me here, click on that. You can see how to make a really nice cute beetle. So you should see that. Okay guys, so that's all we have to do. All you have to do is take the limbs and then stick it on top of the cake, as well as the beetle on top of your Cocomelon cake. And this cake was so easy to make and just pretty. Okay, remember to put some glue or some water on the bottom of it so it can actually stick and it won't fall off during transportation. And so once that was done, all I had to do was to stick the feet and then the appendages, of course, and then the proboscis on top of the cake. And then that's how we formed the beetle, and it kind of brought it to life. Okay, so the next thing we will have to do is to form the antenna on top of the Cocomelon. So what you have to do is, I took some purple fondant and then made it into like a cylindrical shape and dipped like a skewer in the middle. You know what a skewer is? A skewer is like a long toothpick, and then did that for the other side too. And then I rolled a piece of blue fondant like into like a ball, and then stuck it on top of the antenna I made, and that's all she wrote, guys. And see how pretty this cake was. And the person I made it for really loved it. She made it for a 4-year-old and she really loved it. Okay, so the final thing I did was to take my airbrush, you know, of course, to give it like rosy cheeks, like blushes and stuff, because the actual Cocomelon cake has like rosy cheeks, which like really brought it to life. So thank you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and I didn't bore you with my too much talk, and I will see you in my future videos. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time. Give me a thumbs up please and subscribe. Thank you. Bye.